Avatar has always told us a comforting story, that nature is wise, that balance is fair, that those who live close to Eywa are protected, that if you listen, if you respect, if you believe, you will be saved. But there is a question no one ever stopped to ask. What happens to the ones Eywa does not protect? What happens to the Na'vi who are born into fire instead of forests? What happens when faith is met not with guidance, but with silence? This is where Varang begins. Not as a villain, not as a monster, not as a warning, but as a consequence. Pandora looks alive because it is forgiving. Water heals wounds. Forests shelter the lost. The land responds when spoken to. Roots glow. Animals listen. The planet feels like a living promise. But Pandora is not one world. There are places where the ground cracks instead of breathes. Where the sky does not glow, it chokes. Where heat replaces harmony. There are places where Eywa does not whisper. The ash lands, a region shaped by firestorms, volcanic soil, and endless smoke. A place where survival is not spiritual. It is physical, immediate, unforgiving. The ash people live here, not because they chose to, but because they were born here. And Varang is one of them. She is born into a world where fire decides everything. Fire decides where you live. Fire decides when you move. Fire decides who survives the night. From the moment she can walk, Varang learns that the land does not care. It does not bend for prayers. It does not respond to songs. Still, like every Na'vi child, she is taught to believe. She is taught that Eywa connects all life, that Eywa protects her children, that balance always returns. So she listens. She waits. She watches the elders gather. She watches them touch the ground. She watches them pray. And nothing answers. Seasons pass. Firestorms return. Food grows scarce. Migration becomes routine. Loss becomes familiar. Varang watches children disappear into smoke. She watches mothers collapse from exhaustion. She watches the strongest warriors fall not in battle, but to heat, hunger, and poisoned air. Every time it happens, the elders say the same thing. Eywa tests us, but Varang notices something. Eywa never tests the forest clans this way. She hears stories of glowing trees, of waters that heal wounds in moments, of lands where children grow without fear of burning alive. She begins to understand something most Na'vi never have to. Eywa does not abandon everyone, only some. At first, Varang is not angry. She is confused. She asks questions, quietly. Why does Eywa speak through leaves but not ash? Why does the planet respond to forests but ignore firelands? Why are some Na'vi protected by nature, while others are punished by it? No one answers her, because no one has an answer. The elders avoid her gaze. The warriors tell her to have faith. The people tell her silence is part of the path. But silence does not feed people. Silence does not stop fire. Silence does not bring the dead back. And slowly, something dangerous begins to form inside Varang. Not hatred, clarity. She starts paying attention to what actually works. She notices that those who survive longest are not the most faithful. They are the most adaptable. Those who learn to read the wind survive firestorms. Those who control heat instead of fearing it keep their families alive. Those who act quickly live longer than those who wait for signs. And Varang begins to understand a truth that terrifies her. Faith is a luxury, and the ash people cannot afford it. So she stops waiting. Not loudly, not dramatically. She simply stops. She stops asking Eywa for permission. She starts studying the land. She studies fire patterns. She studies ash movement. She studies the way heat reshapes the ground. She teaches children not to fear flame, but but to respect it. She teaches warriors to move with fire, not against it. She teaches her people that survival is not betrayal. At first, they resist, because abandoning prayer feels like betrayal, because questioning Eywa feels forbidden, because change feels dangerous. But then something impossible happens. People start living. Fewer children die during migrations. Fewer elders collapse from exhaustion. Firestorms claim land, but not lives. Varang does what Eywa never did. She adapts, and the Ash people follow her. Not because she claims divine authority, not because she promises salvation, but because she delivers survival. Slowly, Varang becomes more than a leader. She becomes a symbol, a Navi who does not rely on Eywa, a leader who does not ask for blessings, a protector who believes strength is not evil. This is when the world begins to fear her, because Varang represents something Pandora has never faced before. A Navi who proves that Eywa is not essential. To the forest clans, she is unnatural. To the water clans, she is dangerous. To Eywa's followers, she is heretical. Silence does not arrive all at once. It settles slowly, like ash after a fire. At first, you tell yourself it's temporary, that Eywa is listening somewhere else, that the answer will come later. The Ash people waited like that for generations. They waited through droughts that killed their young, through storms that burned instead of cleansing, through losses that never felt meaningful. And every time nothing happened, they told themselves the same lie. Next time, next season, next prayer, next sacrifice. But silence has a cost. It trains the mind to expect nothing. It teaches the heart to stop asking. Varang grew up watching hope age badly. She watched elders repeat the same prayers with weaker voices. She watched warriors hesitate, believing restraint would be rewarded. She watched children learn faith before they learned survival. And she understood something that frightened her. Belief was making her people soft in a land that demanded hardness. The forest rewarded patience. The ash punished it. In the forests, waiting was wisdom. In the ash, waiting was death. So Varang began to question the stories. Not loudly, not rebelliously, quietly. She asked why harmony always seemed to grow where life was already abundant. Why Eywa's voice was clearest, where survival was easiest. Why the land that demanded the most strength offered the least guidance. No one had answers. And unanswered questions change people. They don't disappear. They sink inward. They reshape how you see the world. Varang stopped seeing Pandora as a parent. She started seeing it as a system. And systems, she learned, are not kind. They are efficient. They reward what fits. They ignore what doesn't. The Ash people did not fit. Their land was unstable. Their lives were volatile. Their survival required adaptation, not reverence. So Varang adapted. She studied patterns instead of prayers. She observed cause and effect instead of omens. Fire destroyed, but it also hardened. Ash suffocated, but it also preserved. Nothing in her world was purely evil or purely sacred. Everything had a function. And Varang decided her people needed to function better. She watched how suffering shaped behavior. Those who resisted pain broke quickly. Those who accepted it learned endurance. She did not celebrate suffering. She stripped it of meaning. Pain was not punishment. It was information. It taught you limits. It taught you timing. It taught you precision. While other clans sang to Eywa, Varang taught her people to listen to reality. Reality was honest. It did not promise balance. It only revealed consequences. If you miscalculated, you died. If you hesitated, you were buried. There was no mystery in that. And in that brutal honesty, Varang found clarity. She realized something deeply unsettling. Eywa did not make Pandora fair. Pandora made itself survivable for those who adapted correctly. The forests adapted through connection. The ash adapted through control. Neither was wrong, but only one was acknowledged. And that was the injustice Varang could not accept. She did not envy the forest clans. She envied their certainty. They believed the world was on their side. Varang knew better. She knew the world was indifferent. And indifference is more dangerous than cruelty. Cruelty can be fought. Indifference simply continues. So Varang reshaped her people's relationship with the planet, not as worshippers, as competitors, not as children asking for protection, as survivors demanding space. She told them the truth without poetry. No one is coming to save you, not Eywa, not the forests, not balance. If you want to live, you must become necessary. Necessary to each other, necessary to your land, necessary to your future. Under Varang, weakness was not punished, it was addressed. Fear was not shamed, it was weaponized. Anger was not unleashed blindly, it was refined. Because uncontrolled fire burns everything. Controlled fire builds and destroys with purpose. To outsiders, this looked brutal. But outsiders never lived where hesitation killed. They never learned that mercy without resources is just delay. They never learned that peace offered from a position of abundance feels like mockery to those who starve. When forest clans spoke of harmony, Varang heard comfort. When they spoke of balance, she heard privilege. Balance that never reached her land. Harmony that never crossed into ash. She did not hate them. She simply refused to believe them, because belief had already failed her once. Varang understood something Jake Sully never had to learn. Hope is shaped by environment. Those born into safety can afford patience. Those born into scarcity cannot. Jake believed Pandora healed all wounds. Varang knew some wounds were permanent. Scars from hunger, scars from silence, scars from generations being told to wait. She did not want to conquer the forests. She wanted recognition, and that is what most never understood about Varang. She was not trying to replace Eywa. She was responding to Eywa's absence. There is a difference between rejection and adaptation. Rejection is loud. Adaptation is quiet. Varang adapted to a world that never adapted for her. When the land burned, she learned how long heat lingered. When storms erased paths, she memorized what remained. When food disappeared, she learned which risks were worth taking. This kind of knowledge does not come from belief. It comes from loss. And loss teaches without mercy. Over time, her people stopped asking why the world was cruel. They accepted that it was. Acceptance did not make them weak. It made them precise. They stopped wasting energy on anger. They stopped begging the land for permission. They acted, and action changes identity. The Ash people were no longer a forgotten tribe. They became a force shaped by necessity. Varang understood something deeply unsettling. The forests did not make the Na'vi gentle. Safety did. Take safety away and gentleness disappears, not because it was false, but because it was conditional. Varang never had conditions that allowed softness. So she did not romanticize it. She saw how easily values shifted with environment, how quickly morality bent under hunger, how belief dissolved under repeated loss. And she asked herself a question no one else wanted to face. If Eywa truly connects all life, then why is connection so uneven? Why does guidance flow freely in some places and stop entirely in others? Why does the planet intervene selectively? There was only one answer that made sense. Eywa responds to stability. And stability had never existed in Ash. So Varang stopped trying to stabilize belief. She stabilized behavior. She taught her people to expect nothing and prepare for everything. This expectation hardened them, but it also freed them, because disappointment stopped hurting once hope was removed. They no longer measured life by promises. They measured it by outcomes, and outcomes improved. Children survived longer. Journeys became calculated. Losses became fewer. Not absent, but fewer. Varang never promised safety. She promised reduction of suffering. That alone made her worth following. Outsiders mistook this for cruelty, but cruelty is careless. Varang was deliberate. She did not burn without reason. She did not fight without advantage. She did not move without understanding the cost. Everything had a price, and she paid it knowingly. That is why attempts to shame her failed. You cannot shame someone who already understands the cost of survival. You cannot frighten someone who has lived without protection. You cannot threaten someone who has never relied on mercy. Varang did not fear Pandora's judgment. Pandora had already judged her at birth. She was born into ash. That was the verdict. And instead of begging for a different sentence, she learned how to live with it. This is where the forest Navi misunderstood her most. They thought she hated Eywa. She didn't. Hate requires belief. Varang moved past belief. She operated on certainty. Certainty that the world does not adjust itself for the forgotten. Certainty that balance does not arrive on its own. Certainty that connection is meaningless if it never reaches you. So when Jake spoke of healing the planet, Varang heard a familiar echo. The echo of promises made from safe ground. Promises spoken by someone who had never waited in silence. Jake believed that if he fought hard enough, Pandora would correct itself. Varang knew correction had already failed. For centuries. She was not interested in restoring balance. She wanted acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that some lives were never balanced to begin with. That some suffering was not accidental. It was structural. And structures do not collapse because you wish them to. They collapse when pressure becomes unavoidable. Varang applied pressure, not recklessly, inevitably. She understood something Jake did not. You cannot convince a system to care. You can only make neglect expensive. That was her strategy. Not destruction for its own sake. Visibility. She forced Pandora to look at its margins, to confront what it had ignored, to face the cost of selective harmony. And Pandora resisted. Because systems always resist exposure. It is easier to call Varang a monster, easier to label her violent, easier to pretend she appeared from nowhere, than to admit she was created by silence, created by imbalance, created by a world that preached unity while practicing exclusion. Varang never asked to be understood. Understanding was irrelevant. She asked to be reckoned with. And reckoning is uncomfortable because it demands accountability. If Varang is wrong, then the world is simple. Good versus evil. Light versus darkness. But if Varang makes sense, then the world is compromised.